He learned very early that money could become dangerous the moment the rules changed. One day, his family lived quietly, working, saving, planning for a future that felt stable. The next, a new government decided that stability was a threat. Accounts were frozen. Properties were questioned. Neighbors whispered instead of speaking freely. And in the middle of that fear, a terrifying realization settled in his chest. Money was no longer just about survival. It was about control. The question that haunted him was simple and brutal. If the government could see everything, how do you protect your family's future without destroying your conscience? A quiet thought crossed his mind, one that would follow him for years. Wealth is fragile when responsibility is outsourced to systems you don't control. The dictatorship didn't arrive overnight. It crept in slowly, disguised as order and protection. At first, rules changed, then oversight increased. Then fear became normal. His family wasn't rich, but they were disciplined. Years of restraint, delayed gratification, and careful saving had built a small sense of security. Watching that security become a liability was emotionally crushing. Anxiety replaced confidence. Every financial decision felt loaded with risk. Do nothing and lose everything. Act and risk punishment. Nights became restless. He watched his parents whisper over documents, count money in silence, and debate choices that felt impossible. Hiding money wasn't about greed. It was about preserving years of effort in a world that suddenly punished responsibility. He didn't realize it then, but those moments were shaping his financial identity far more deeply than any lesson ever could. But what happened next would quietly change how he understood money. It wasn't the act of hiding it. It was the mindset required to do so. Every decision demanded patience, emotional control, and long-term thinking. Panic could ruin everything. Impulse could expose them. They learned to separate fear from strategy, to think in years instead of weeks, to prioritize preservation over comfort. Money stopped being emotional. It became deliberate. He noticed how different this felt from how most people handled money. Others spent to escape anxiety. His family saved to manage it. Others trusted systems blindly. His family trusted discipline and awareness. What followed challenged everything he believed about security. True safety, he realized, doesn't come from visibility or approval. It comes from understanding risk, responsibility, and restraint. Still, the pressure was constant. Fear of discovery, fear of mistakes, fear of being one step behind a system designed to take, not protect. There were moments when comfort tempted him, moments when spending freely would have eased the tension. But restraint became a form of resistance, not rebellion, but self-leadership. He didn't realize that moment was already shaping his financial identity, one built on calm under pressure, patience under uncertainty, and responsibility when fear demanded shortcuts. Money became something to respect, not show, something to protect, not worship. If you're listening to this story and feeling its weight, this might be a quiet moment to pause. Liking this video or subscribing to the channel, ISN. T about growth or numbers. It is simply a way of choosing to stay with stories that explore money beyond surface-level advice, into identity discipline and long-term thinking. The real turning point came years later, long after the dictatorship faded. He noticed that while others struggled to rebuild financially, his family adapted faster. Not because they had more money, but because their mindset had changed. They had learned to think defensively and strategically, to plan for uncertainty, to detach emotion from decisions. Responsibility no longer felt heavy. It felt natural. But there was one realization he only understood much later. Wealth isn't defined by how visible it is, but by how resilient it becomes under pressure. The habits forged during fear remained useful during freedom. Discipline didn't disappear when danger passed. It evolved into clarity, into confidence, into long-term vision. Concepts he later recognized echoed in frameworks like How to Develop a Millionaire Mindset, not as a promise of riches, but as a reminder that mindset is what survives when systems fail. As an adult, he carried those lessons quietly. He avoided impulsive decisions. He respected delayed gratification. He understood that true financial power is psychological. It's the ability to remain calm when rules change, to stay responsible when others panic, to think ahead when comfort is tempting. And now, a question lingers for anyone listening. How much of your financial stress comes from external systems, and how much comes from internal habits? If everything changed tomorrow, would your mindset protect you or expose you? For those who feel something shifting internally, there are deeper psychological reflections shared in the description and comments, including how to develop a millionaire mindset, not as instructions, but as a continuation of this same internal work. And if this story resonated with you, liking the video and subscribing to the channel is simply a way to continue these conversations, slowly, thoughtfully, and with purpose. The moment he learned to protect money with discipline instead of fear, he learned how to protect his future.